Welcome to another edition of Chat Nap with the AI Chatterbox, Chuck and Howie, a podcast dedicated to all things that is metrology. It's a great day. I'd like to at this time take the time to introduce my co-host, Howard. What's up?
Good morning. I just returned from a business trip. Man, Monday, I sat in the airport for 9 hours because of the snow here in Kansas City.
They shut the airport down?
They didn't, but the original flight at 8 got changed like the night before. And then they changed it to like a 10:30 flight. So I got up there, went to the gate. Sure enough, they had changed it another 10 or 15 minutes delay. And so then it just kept delaying. So it's like, all right, I'm going up to the Sky Club and wait up there and figure out when they're going to go. And it was delay after delay, like 7 or 8 times. And next thing you know, it's not going to leave till like 10:30 at night. And it's like, okay, we're done here. So I went up to the agent there at the Sky Club and I said, let's just take the first flight tomorrow because this is not happening today. So I went back home, came back at the airport the next morning, early flight, 5:15 flight.
So you went home at 11 o'clock at night and came back at...
I left around 6 p.m. from the airport, went home, had a little dinner, went to bed, got up early, like 2 in the morning. Back out to the airport. The roads were much better at that point. And finally was able to take off. Now it was delayed in like 10 minutes, but it was not bad.
So you've been on the road all week then, this week?
Yeah. Just got back last night. So, travel woes, but got that trip done. It was an excellent business trip, really good meeting with our client, and back at it, ready for this interview for today's special guest.
Yeah, we're going off track a little bit with today's guest. Our guest today does a lot with document control, which is a huge problem within our community.
It is.
And we're going to figure out exactly what he does, how he did it, and why he does it. So it'll be very interesting to see how this CEO has developed a very similar organization that probably could provide service to the metrology organization as well.
Absolutely could. Yeah, his focus with his business is life science companies. Which is a lot of the companies that metrology serves. So a lot of tie-ins there for sure.
Yeah.
It all ties to quality control.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see because he also is a Army veteran like myself. So I think that, I've met Tom a couple of times, but the truth being that Tom a little bit better than I do.
Yes.
So a little bit more about him going into it. So I'm going to be kind of like the redheaded stepchild in this particular probably podcast this morning.
Oh, you'll have plenty to talk about. Tom's an easy person to talk with.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's a Bears fan, so that's going to be that's going to be the bad thing with Tom. But it'll be a lot of fun. So
he and I are both from Chicago, and our wives are both from the Kansas City area, and we were both military stationed in this Kansas City area, right? And that's how we ended up meeting our wives. So we have some commonalities there, and he also lives next door. But they're a great couple. They're fantastic people. Very generous, very, very kind.
Well, Tom has spent, as you know, 30 years helping organizations reduce cycle time. He operates a document service business, which improves the first-time quality, deploying advanced technologies, increasing automation. He's helped a lot of Fortune 1000 companies over the years with essential enterprise content management solutions, add-ons and extensions for Open Text Content Suite platform. Now that's a mouthful.
Yeah, it took me a little while to figure out exactly what his company did or does when they first moved in, and I started grasping that more and more. Very, very important process. This will be great to reveal this part of the controls of documentation in business.
Yeah. Well, Tom holds a bachelor's degree and MBA from Northern Illinois University. Again, the link into more Chicago. He obviously grew up there and stayed there and went to school. And there's Tom.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast, Tom.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the show.
Oh my God, he's wearing his Kansas City sweater.
Go Chiefs.
Go Chiefs. They call this Red Friday, so I have to represent today. Yeah. I'll wear this today, and then I'll be in my Bears gear on.
No, you said it right. It's beers.
I'll be drinking beers with my
Bears.
Bears gear, the Bears, on Friday. Yeah, I'm sorry, on Sunday.
Now you're making me look bad. I don't have my Red Friday stuff on. I'm wearing my Transcat garb.
Yeah.
But don't worry, I'll change it before the end of the day.
Okay.
Well, glad to have you on the show, Tom. This is going to be interesting because most of our guests are tied directly to metrology, and you are indirectly tied to the same customer base because of the business that you have.
Correct.
So we share a lot of commonalities there.
We do. Kind of like you and I share a lot of commonalities.
We do. Yeah, I was just mentioning we're both from Chicago. Our wives are from the Kansas City area, larger metropolitan area, and both military that brought us to where our wives are to meet them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's some pretty cool things that we discovered right away.
We left the Kansas City area after marrying our lovely wives and pursued our careers and our education elsewhere. And then, as fate would have it, brought us back to the Kansas City area where we got to meet each other and yeah, continue.
It's been a good friendship.
It has
Well,
been.
well, Tom, I gave a very brief introduction to you. And because you're kind of new to the metrology community, and could you kind of expand a little bit on exactly what it is that your company does? I don't want you to give me a an in-depth look at it, but maybe a more coarser overview so that I could understand a little bit better.
Sure. So Global Sense has been around for over 20 years now. We really extend and enhance the open text platform, the open text content management platform. I worked at open text for 18 years before joining the Global Sense team 12 years ago, going on 12 years ago. So open text is the main platform for, let's say, storing information, doing workflows for routing, review, and approval of documents, forms, capturing information, right? Really dealing with records management, records retention, all of that.
Mhm.
So that's what myself and most of the folks who work here at Global Sense did before Global Sense. And then what Global Sense really does is take that platform and extend the capabilities around, let's say, viewing documents or creating documents or improving workflow automation to make that whole document processing and document review and approval processes, et cetera. So a great tie-in would be there's the SOPs, right? And policy documents that are required. How do those documents get created? Who has to review them? Who has to approve them? How often do they get periodically reviewed and approved? What happens when they're no longer needed and they get to be retired? So all of that process for managing the documentation and auditing and all of that is what our company helps with on top of the open text platform.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's definitely a tie-in, Howard. I mean, the tie-in is exactly what every single organization that's accredited has to perform those features and those functionalities day in and day out.
The accredited organizations and a lot of their clients as well.
Correct.
I would say every client should in manufacturing that we deal with, but some are less stringent than others depending on the industry, right?
Yeah, so any of the life science organizations have to, right? And then depending on the other, and that's the other big tie-in between our organizations is, we deal with highly regulated organizations, whether it's life sciences, whether it's, nuclear power, whether it's
Nuclear power, right?
like
Product
energy,
testing, energy transmission, and
utilities.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So we have that was the thing that Howard and I discovered was like our customer bases are very, very similar because we're approaching the same kind of problems from different directions and solving different pieces of that overall workflow, that overall business process that the customers are dealing with.
That is correct.
Sure. Well, there's definitely a tie between the two fields of industry. No question about it. So you said that you've been with them for 12 years. What did you do before you got to your current thing with Global Sense?
Yeah, before that, I was at OpenText. I was there for 18 years, working out of the Chicago area. I held a variety of roles. My first 10 years there was in the development organization, where I was responsible for a variety of. I was responsible for all of our audits, right, with our customers. So the quality managers would come in and audit our team, or I would occasionally have to go to the customer sites. So all the testing and QA responsibilities, I actually was responsible for like localization of the product. So I had folks with language skills, Japanese, German, French, etc., working on my team. We were responsible for performance and scalability of the product set, right? When I joined OpenText, it was like 82 people. I was like the 82nd employee, and now OpenText is like 25,000 people.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
goodness,
it's
wow.
unbelievable that you were
Tremendous.
in early like that on the ground floor.
Yeah, exactly. So a bunch of growth, different, roles through the development organization. And then I switched into what we called a field organization, which meant I then was a part of the pre-sales team running the technical sales organization, as well as taking over the services organization for the Americas. So yeah, I had a team of, I don't know, over 400 people working for me, providing, solutions to the customer base here in the Americas. Yeah. So I've traveled pretty extensively in my roles at OpenText and here at Global Sense. So Europe, Asia, Australia, right, South America, up to the Canadas and across the US. Yeah. Million miler actual flight miles with United. And what was crazy, right? When back in the day when we were doing all that travel, I was doing 100,000 miles a year, mostly domestic, right?
That's hard. That's
I
a
don't know
lot.
if you guys, yeah,
Wow.
that was a lot. And what was crazy, remember that movie? I think it was Up in the Air, came out with
Oh, George Clooney.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's a line there. He's like, I traveled 36 weeks this year, blah, blah, blah. I had traveled 48 weeks that year, right?
Yep.
No kidding. Wow.
My first year with Transcat
Yeah.
was 50 out of 52 weeks, which is unusually high.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I just received this package yesterday.
Oh,
Lifetime diamond.
lifetime diamond. Wow.
So they sent me a pair of really nice Bose AirPods
Oh,
for
fun.
being a lifetime diamond, but that is really cool. And as soon as I got the notice that I'm lifetime diamond, which was maybe a month ago, they come out with a new announcement saying, we're going to have diamond reserve level now. And
Of
it's
course.
like, you just
One
kicked me
more.
down.
Yeah.
Thanks for nothing. No,
But
it was
there's
very nice.
one more. Yeah, no, that's really cool. I think with United, I got like a Velcro handle that goes around my carry-on bag. So like the folks at United are supposed to identify that and like leave me alone, right?
Oh,
Doesn't always work, but it can be helpful. Yeah.
Well, with the Delta, I got 2 million miles this last year with Delta. And probably half of that million miles was all domestic, traveling across the United States, going to Buffalo one week and then, California the next week and Texas the week after. Those are hard miles. I don't know how you did it.
Mine's been all domestic as well, but he's done a lot more miles.
Yeah. Well,
That's a lot.
the ones that drove me crazy, right, is what I would call the multi-city tours, right? Like when you have
Oh,
to,
yeah.
because my travel agent didn't own a Globe, send me to Seattle, right? It's like, what is wrong with you people?
Try to take you the most erratic way we can.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we were lucky. We get to book our own flights, right? All that hassle, we don't get people to take care of us.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get back on track. So
Yes.
Tom, you have a lot of life cycle companies. When you were telling me what you did, it's exactly, I mean, I've probably said a minute ago the same thing. Again, I don't want to repeat myself too much, but you are exactly in our field of industry. I mean, what you do is exactly what a lot of people in our industry do as well. So I got a funny feeling that a lot of people are from our industry are going to be contacting you going, hey, can we have a conversation?
Sure. Yeah, happy to do it, right? And it really comes down to tracking all of the information that you do. And right, kind of like as I learned back in the day when I worked at Abbott Labs in Chicago, right, and had to go through the audits for the FDA and whatnot, right? If it's not documented, it didn't happen.
That's
And
right.
so cracking that documentation and being able to prove that you said what you were going to do, you did what you said you were going to do, and you have the evidence to prove it. And I think that's where we all tie in together here, right? Like, how do we track what that is? So the policies and SOPs and whatnot to identify what you say you're going to do, right? You guys actually do it, right? With the measurements and making sure that the equipment is sound and whatnot. And then tracking all that data inside of a system like OpenText, right, makes a ton of sense. And then having it ready for audits and regulatory bodies and yeah, any compliance or submissions, etc.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, let's get into a little bit about leadership now. You're now the CEO.
Yeah.
What is your style of leadership? What makes you an effective CEO?
So I've been very fortunate dealing with the people that I've worked with throughout my career. Um, very, very smart, very motivated people. So my job, I feel, is giving people the ability to do their jobs effectively, right? So getting the blockers out of the way, trying to reduce the stress, right? Like if we've got customer challenges, I try to take all of the heat from the customers. I used to call myself the 6'4" pacifier, right? So I'd get sent out to customer sites to try to de-escalate events so that my team could actually solve the problems that they were meaning to solve, right?
Sure.
And there's nothing like working software to de-escalate an account.
Oh, you've told me about some nightmare situations, right, where you're on a very short timeline to fix a problem. And
Yeah.
everybody's just working as many hours as they have to get it done.
And that's the deal, right? Like I try to, again, let people be self-motivated. We try to hire, I mean, this is the key bit, right? Hire and retain people who have the care gene, right? And I think that's really critical.
I like that.
If you can do that, you can train people to do specific tasks, right? Like smart people can learn how to do stuff, but it's near impossible to teach somebody to care. And for example, we had a customer, a potential customer, a partner of ours that is looking to use our software. They ran into a problem 2 days before their go live. They didn't realize they had the issue. And now they're trying to meet a customer deadline going live, and they're trying to use our software to resolve it. And it does 99.9% of what they need to do. There's one fix we need to make. So my team was up all night last night creating a patch. We're testing the patch. We're going to provide it to them today so that they can go live tomorrow with the solution, right? I mean, that's the kind of, yeah. And it is, right? And this is something that I didn't know about 2 days ago, right? I literally got a call from my partner saying, a company saying, hey, we've got this issue. Can you help? And I'm like, well, here's the software. Let's see if it does what you need to do. And it does, with this one exception, and working to resolve that one exception, right? When we take on a customer, our goal is to make them really a part of our family, right? Their success is our success. And I feel that's the same way when it comes to our staff, right? Their success is our success, right? So it's really about how do you find a way to enable them so that they can be the best person that they can be. And a lot of that is just trying to keep the nonsense out of their way so they can focus on what's important and how they get their jobs done.
It's fantastic. A lot of our conversations with some of our guests in the past have focused on hiring practices and the type of person you want to hire. And pretty much we all agree you got to hire motivated people first and foremost. And everything else can be taught, right? And if they have the experience on top of that or qualifications, that's even better. This is the first time I've heard anyone talk about the care gene, which I think is fantastic. I'm going to use that if you don't mind going forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is exactly right. That is exactly what you want to have. People who want to take care of the client.
Exactly. And care about their job, right? So, it can be the client, it can be their work effort, all right? It's the result. If they care about what they're doing and how they're doing it, you're going to get great results. It's the folks that are kind of just floating, right? Showing up, putting the time in, looking for the weekend.
Right.
That's when you're going to have the problems. Not that I don't believe in work hard, play hard, right? For sure, we need to have the downtime and enjoy ourselves. But you got to do that right with discretion at the right time and with the right place.
Yeah.
Yeah, you almost said the phrase "working for the weekend." Maybe we need to come up with a new song for the people who are so motivated that's called "Not Working for the Weekend."
Maybe.
We
I
find
don't,
that too. There's a lot of people that we have on the show who surprisingly have a musical background. Do you play any musical instruments?
yeah, I play the radio. I'm pretty
There you
good at
go.
that. Yeah. No, I do not. What did I attempt? I think I attempted like the trombone or something back in like fifth grade. But no, I can't hold a tune. You know, when we do karaoke, my song is always tequila because it's the one word I can usually remember that and pull that off. But I don't play. Fortunately, my wife is very talented, and so she's passed that on to the kids.
Yeah, yeah.
My daughter is very talented, but
I don't
yeah,
think I've ever heard Ryan sing, but Marin has a fantastic voice.
yeah, and Ryan actually he was a drummer, so similar to you. So
Oh yeah,
we got to get him to play your drum kit. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Have him come over. That'd be great.
yeah, absolutely.
So I want to go back to your military days.
Yeah,
I think the audience will find it interesting to hear what you were doing in the military. And then I'd like to transition. How did you go from that to where you are?
yeah, great questions. So in the Army, I was what's called a paralegal, right? So a legal specialist. So I basically supported attorneys in the JAG Corps. I was stationed out at Fort Riley at Kansas, and I was very fortunate to be in the what we call the JAG office, the headquarters, my entire career there. I started out doing what they called civil law. So I would do wills and powers of attorney, separation agreements, review contracts, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, the number of wills and powers of attorney that I have authored, numbers in the tens of thousands, probably.
That's a lot.
Well, imagine, and so this is what I did both in the regular army as well as in the reserve. Uh, it's required for the soldiers to at least have been offered a will and a power of attorney, right? So the idea, again, how do we enable the troops to be their best fighting force possible? Is them not to worry about their dependents, right? So making sure that they have the appropriate will and powers of attorney in place that they could focus on the mission as opposed to worrying about their families. So whenever you deploy troops, right? So we would deploy 20,000 troops out of Fort Riley. We would have to provide that offer to them. So we'd have to write all the wills and powers of attorney needed for all those troops. Same in the reserve, right? So I was a part of Desert Shield and Desert Storm back in the what was that, 90s?
Yeah, 90s.
Late 90s, yeah.
Yeah. So again, I would spend my weekends and a lot of my waking hours during the week at different military installations in the Midwest, helping get troops prepared for the overseas movements, right, that would happen. So that was the first part of my military career, and then I moved into the criminal law side when I was out at Fort Riley for my remaining couple of years there, and that you don't really think about it, but on a post, right? Let's say Fort Riley at the time was 25,000 people. You also had dependents living on post, right? So whether it was spouses or children, if they broke the law, right? So speeding, shoplifting, right, at the post exchange, etc., they would have to be tried, right, and were given the opportunity, etc. So I was fortunate to be the clerk of the magistrate court at Fort Riley. So twice a month we would have a federal magistrate come up from Wichita and handle those cases, whether it was the traffic cases or the misdemeanor cases, right, like shoplifting and assault or whatever it might be. And in those 2 days a month, I had to wear civilian clothes, right? So the judge didn't want it to be considered a military court, even though, right, yeah. It was actually on Fort Riley.
And these were all misdemeanor cases, no felony?
Yeah, felonies would get moved to a different jurisdiction. They
Right.
wouldn't handle those where I was at. But
So you're not sending them to Leavenworth.
well, no. This is on the civilian side, right? So
Got
these
it.
were dependents. The other part of my job on criminal side, yes, it would be misdemeanors or felonies, right? So
Right.
I handled those cases, but there was the clerk of the magistrate court was definitely interesting because I had to deal with, traffic fines and yeah, those kind of cases for the civilian community. And imagine, you're on a fort where you got, again, 25,000 troops, everybody's in uniform, and this guy is walking into to work wearing a suit as opposed to my BDUs. But the rest of the time, when I wasn't doing that, I was a part of the criminal law group. So we would process soldiers, and that was all of the crimes, whether it was traffic violations to misdemeanors to felonies, right? And unfortunately, you get 25,000 normally young people together, right? The number of folks that were over, I think it was probably like 90+% of the people there were under 25 years old,
Yeah.
right? So things are going to happen, right, on post. And unfortunately, bad things happen. So dealing with, rape, murder,
Oh my.
it's all of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
Tough
the crazy,
cases.
right? To get a little heavy, right? The deal was, I'm 19, 20 years old at the time.
Yeah.
And the kind of things that you do when you're in the military, you really you have to expand your maturity quickly, right? So having to deal with, rape cases and murder cases and assault and battery and whatnot, right, was craziness, especially when I reflect back how young I was and how young everybody else that I was working with.
Yeah, I've done similar thought process. You take a look at what you were doing in the military at that age and the responsibility you had. I don't think I really felt that weight until I looked back and said, wow, right? Now you've had that, which clearly that's a lot of pressure on your shoulders with everything you dealt with there and everything you witnessed, right?
Yeah.
So I was out at Whiteman Air Force Base, stationed here in the Kansas City area, calibrating the cesium clocks that were used to control the timing of the missile silos for the ICBMs, Minuteman IIs.
Yeah.
That's all tied into that process, right? And it's like, if this is off and things don't go, that could be a major problem for the United States of America, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with what you're dealing with there, just some tragic cases, I'm sure, that you dealt with and at such a young age.
Yeah. And yeah, the
Incredible.
level of responsibility, but it's one of the edicts, verbiages, whatever the phrase I'm looking for, right? That doesn't destroy you, makes you stronger, right?
Mhm.
So all of that, I think, has helped us become who we are and made our life choices what they have become.
Sure.
So, when I'm dealing with those kind of pressures and that kind of situation, 19, 20, 21 years old, versus now whenever somebody's got an issue because, they're having problems viewing a document or the footer isn't exactly right or whatever. Not that that isn't important and doesn't have downstream effect,
Right.
but, it's a significantly different level
Puts it in
of
perspective.
it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really helped out. And one of the things that really formed me, I think, I started working when I was 10 years old for my dad. He had a restaurant in Chicago, and I worked, basically food service for my first 8 years before going into the military. You really got to interact with people, right?
Right.
And really honed personal skills and communication skills. And people always say, "Oh, it's communication is a problem." It is true, right? Like if you're not setting the right expectation, if you're not understanding the needs of the customer or the needs of the situation, things are going to go sideways, right? So pulling those experiences from a young age through the military, after the military, I went back to Chicago to complete my education, get my undergrad. I fell into a role at a computer store in the military, because I was 18 years old and the high school I was at offered programming language, right? So I did punch cards and whatnot. I got made responsible for deploying software as part of the JAG office and improving our automation capabilities there. So it was an easy fit to work at a computer store where not only did we sell equipment, but we also sold solutions and built out things for the local sheriff's office, for example, and other customers, which then led me to my first job doing software at a time and attendance company in Des Plaines, Illinois, right? So, and my career has always been working in software. So whether it was working time and attendance or tenant management or working at Abbott Labs on blood analyzer machines, AC Nielsen, right? All the roles I played before joining OpenText and then here at Global Sense. Yeah. So
I have a question for you, Tom, and maybe you might not have the answer, maybe you do. I signed a last will and rights and all those documents when I was in the service as a fresh recruit as well, before I got deployed. And what is the legality of those documents that I signed while I was in the service now that I'm out? Are any of those last will and testament documents still valid? Are they still enforceable? Are they, do they still ride with the service member once they leave the service? What's become of those documents? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, so generally speaking, your will survive your service, right? But if you have a new will, it usually the language will be this will supersedes any previous, last will or testaments. So, I'm not a lawyer, so you'd have to talk to your lawyer.
Yeah.
But if you've written a will since, it would supersede the previous documents that you wrote, right? There's generally a line in there that says this supersedes or revokes any previous
Right, yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Which is pretty common contract language, right? That's same with our contracts with our clients. We typically have a master service agreement, and then we have statements of work that tie to that. And when we create a new statement of work, we say that it supersedes the previous one.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to your powers of attorney, those can be more problematic, and you definitely, if you signed anything like that when you were in the service, you'd want to get a hold of those and make sure that you either they are what you want them to be, or you want to destroy them, right? Because those powers of attorney are great vehicles whenever you need them for taking care of transactions when you're not around. But it also puts that responsibility on somebody. And if you no longer have that same relationship, right? The number of times we would suggest that a service member wouldn't give a power of attorney to, let's say, a girlfriend before they left the country for a year, and then they come
Right,
back
exactly.
and they're like,
Yeah.
hey, she signed me up for an automobile and blah, blah, blah. Am I really on the hook? We're like, yeah, you're kind of on the hook for that. So you want to really make sure when you're putting that trust into somebody, that trust is somebody that you can really count on. And then when you don't need it anymore, you go get that document. You don't leave it in that person's hands, right? For long term. And I don't mean to be sexist. It happened both ways, both
Sure.
Spouses or significant others. Yeah, found out that it didn't the trust wasn't there as it needed to be.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
was curious
certainly
how
wanna
many people came and are still bound by a document that they're unaware of. Last thing I want is
Well, it's
an
easy to forget
ex-wife.
about that. Yeah, you want
Yeah,
to review
yeah.
that once a year, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, if you did it when you were 19, 20 years old back in the Army, for example, and you forgot about it, and yeah, it comes to light some years later, right? Especially if a will, for example, if you haven't created a new one, yeah, the old will would be in place.
Wow, interesting. Just brings back memories. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
I
branch
wonder
were
if
you in?
I was in the Army as well. I
Okay.
spent 10 years, 9 months, 10 days.
Not that
Not that I
anybody's
was
counting. Yeah.
Not that I was
Where-
counting, right? No.
Yeah. Where were you at? Where were you stationed?
I was all over the place. I was stationed Fort McClellan, Fort Gordon, Fort Huachuca. I spent some time over in Germany. I spent some time in Amsterdam. Loved Amsterdam. My 2 years in Amsterdam was fabulous. So
Yeah.
it's but I was only in the European theater. I've always wanted to get some sort of assignment over there in the Pacific, but never got it. So And then I was an officer, and I ended up resigning my officer for something. It brings up a lot of memories, Tom, when you talk about back when I went through basic, signing all these documents. And what makes me wonder is how many other documents are out there, not just me, everybody in the world, where we sign these documents and we don't realize the impact they have on us down the road. How many of these documents are out there that may have an impact on my life? And I'm sure, I mean, I now have a new last will and testament, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's people out there that don't, that have signed these documents. I can guarantee it.
Yeah. And again, relationships change over time, right? And so whether that's still your directive or not, and would be significantly different, could be significantly different. But it kind of brings us back to the regular topic, right? So retirement of information, right? So it's not just the review and approval and publishing of information, but then it's also doing a periodic review, right?
Mhm.
Organizations will have something set up, whether it's 6 months or a year or twice a year. And then you need to have a retirement plan in place for those documents, right? So
Right.
whether it's superseded by new versions or whether it's just retired completely because it's no longer effective, so that those things aren't dangling out there and risk. And the same comes true when it comes to records retention, right? If you still have that information available in your systems, if you get subpoenaed or, right, there's a discovery request, any information that you have available, you have to make available, right? And yeah, sometimes that information is no longer relevant and should have been destroyed. And if you didn't handle it properly, yeah, you run into other problems.
So Tom, you've had a lifetime of document creation, control, and maintenance.
I hadn't really thought about it before, but yeah, my legal career in the military is kind of just one of the stepping stones along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, the next question I want to ask is that almost everybody that we talk to, the flavor of the month is AI. How is AI affecting your business, Tom?
Yeah, so there's the worrying concern that like every developer is going to go away and it's all going to be just AI, and I don't think that's going to happen. But I do believe AI is the next level of instead of, let's say, artificial intelligence, it's really more intelligent automation. I view it, right? So
efficiency.
yeah. So for example, we are working on what we call forms links. So we're taking documents that maybe you use as a Word document or a PDF or a spreadsheet that you use to then enter your calibration information into that form. And you're doing it manually, right? And then somebody has to sign that and scan that into a system and store it and whatnot. We have a facility where you will send us the form and then we translate that, convert that into an online digital form so you can do the data entry online as opposed to having to go through the gyrations of getting it, signed off, printed, scanned, OCR, all of that. So we're using AI to help with that and really transform those, I'll call them static forms, into dynamic forms.
Sure.
To make it easier for folks. And then, of course, the idea would be, if you needed to be on the shop floor or whatnot, you could have, let's say some kind of a tablet. I don't know if that's showing up, right? So some kind of a tablet that would then show those forms so that you'd fill them out on the shop floor, if you will.
Yeah.
So it's similar to you writing them down, but you'd actually just have a tablet where you're entering the information in, whether it's a laptop or a tablet or whatever it could be. So making that streamline that process and kicking that into workflows that would then follow through. And then using automation and AI to improve that workflow capability, right? So having the AI analyze the data and set the flag so that it can then get routed to the right people to do things, right? I'm a big believer you need to keep humans in the loop, but AI can be very effective in identifying trends, helping with spotting information, right? Patterns, that kind of stuff, and bringing it to our attention, right? So I do think it's more about how can we improve automation using AI as opposed to AI taking everything over. But it from our perspective, yeah, there's a lot of opportunities by how do we use AI to improve automation.
Sure. Great. That's, again, a lot of synergy between your industry and the metrology community. It's just that you sound like a quality manager that we deal with a lot in our industry. Would you agree with that,
Yeah.
Howard?
Yeah. Yeah. It's all about GDP, right? Good documentation practice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. GDMP, I think, is what we would deal with a lot, right? GDMP. Yeah. So that's that's who I had to deal with as well, right? So again, on the software and documentation side, I deal with a lot of the quality managers, right?
Sure.
On that side of it. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, we're going to move on to where we get to embarrass you, Tom.
Perfect.
Yeah, this is we want to know more about Tom, who you are, what makes you tick. So
Yeah.
I'm going to ask the first question, then Howard and I kind of go back and forth here, and we're hoping we can embarrass you. That's our main goal.
Bring
So
it.
the first question that I want to ask is, are there any roles in your life, anybody that has made an impact on you that made you the person who you are today?
Yeah, it's so many, right? So clearly, along the way in my family life, right? Clearly, my mom, my dad, my grandmother, all big influences on my life. I can't speak highly enough about my wife, right? So we got married really when we were kids, right?
Yeah.
37 plus years ago, and she has a work ethic that is beyond the pale for all of us, right? She is unbelievable with what she does. So often inspired by her. My kids, right? They continue to surprise me, and I always learn from them. I feel right like you really want to try to help someone, they end up helping you more, right? So as I've changed from being a role of you know, I'll say more of an authoritarian whenever young age with the kids, and right from wrong kind of a thing, to now more of a coach mentor. But it's really like they're coaching and mentoring me, and trying to stay with the new reality of the world, and making sure that we try not to offend folks and whatnot, right? And just try to be a better human.
That's the thing about having kids. It's like looking into a mirror sometimes, right? You're taking a look at things that you haven't thought about for years when you were that age, and you're seeing how they're reacting, and you relate it to things that you thought about at the time. Like you said, at some point, it starts reflecting back things that you didn't think about previously, and you're
Yeah.
learning new opportunities, or just revisiting and rethinking processes.
Absolutely. And then, along the way, right? Whether it's neighbors or friends or colleagues at work, right? Whether it's we had a joke when I worked back at Open Text, right? You check once a year and say, okay, who do I have a job? Who do I report to, and who reports to me, right? And so I was always a believer in the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you'd have others do unto you, right? So it's always you need to treat people the way you want to be treated, and because you never know, right? Like you might be the boss today, but you might be looking for a gig tomorrow, and if you've treated people poorly, they're going to treat you the same, right? So I
It's
think,
funny you mentioned that, because that's actually happened with me at Transcat. There was a period of time when me and another guy who works for me now, we were peers, and then I ended up working for him, and then he left the company for a short period of time, and then we hired him back, and I hired him to report to me. And we've never looked at it as a, who reports to who type of scenario. We're working together to serve the same customers, and we know what our roles are and what our responsibilities are. And you're right. You never know when that's going to come back around.
exactly. Yeah. So it's just good to live by, right? Like just do unto others as you want to be have done to you. And I think we'd all be better off.
Yeah, good advice.
Well, being prior military, I was hoping you were going to say George Patton.
Love Patton. Yeah. I mean, he had some very strong beliefs of our Russian friends. And
Yeah.
maybe if we would have taken his advice back in 45, we wouldn't be in the situation we're in today in the Ukraine. But yeah, Patton's great.
The reason I bring up Patton is as a young officer, when we went through advanced learning school, we had to pick a military officer as a mentor, and we had to, learn exactly all the tactics they had. And I chose Patton as part of my program, and that's why I'm a big Patton guy. So
Yeah. And
So
it's
Howard,
terrible, right? I mean, he made it through the war, all that, and then be killed in a car accident. I mean,
Oh,
just
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
terrible. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. There's some tragic stories like that.
Some
yeah,
people say he was murdered, but that's, that's,
potentially, right? Yeah,
yeah.
potentially. Conspiracy
Yeah.
theorists.
All right, let me ask you, Tom, are you an avid reader, and do you have any good books that you recommend, whether it's business or just personal leisure?
Yeah, so I do a lot of audiobooks, right? So I try to when the temperature allows to walk at least once a day, right? So I do 3 or 4 miles, and I go cycling. So I do a lot of books on tape. So I'm a huge like Tom Clancy fan, right? So pretty much anything in the Tom Clancy genre is great.
Mhm.
Um, I also like historical fiction. So like I think it's Bernard Caldwell Cornwell. Like there's the Sharp series, which is fantastic, and he's the Uhtred books and whatnot. So anything in that genre, and I've probably got, I don't know, 100 on my Audible account
Oh,
of
wow.
different ones.
Yeah.
And then of course, if you're a Chicagoan, a classic is The Devil in the White City, and it's about the Chicago World's Fair and one of the first serial killers, and it's a really intricate story. So yeah, if you've
I'm
not
gonna have to
done
read that one. That sounds
oh,
intriguing.
The Devil, and then it goes a lot of Chicago history, and
Yeah.
the names of streets and areas in Chicagoland. You're like, well, where did that name come from? And yeah, it was actually a person and how they figured it out, and yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, good stuff.
Thanks.
Interesting. Okay, then my turn. You traveled a lot, as Howard and I. What is your favorite place to visit, and where would you like to go that you haven't gone to yet?
Yeah, so I'm gonna hit the big spots, right? Like I really enjoy London. I really enjoy Munich. Been to Belfast, really enjoyed that. Sydney and Melbourne, love those. Tokyo was great, right? I really fit in Tokyo, right? Very blendable, right? Nobody noticed that I was American.
Sure. Sure.
Um,
Probably people wanting a lot of pictures with you.
yeah, it was crazy talk. Yeah, like I never felt so tall, right? I'm about
Right.
6'3". It's whenever I was in Japan. Sanibel, we were actually down in Sanibel just recently. Nashville, really enjoyed Nashville. We were there just recently as well. Where I haven't been, and I need to correct, is the Keys. I really want to go to the Florida Keys, both for diving, right? I am scuba certified, so my wife and I like to do diving. We haven't done it as much as we want to do, but I'd love to go to the Florida Keys and enjoy that area.
It's beautiful. We've been down there. Of course, we lived in Orlando for quite a while. But I have a tall story as well. When Janet and I first moved to Southern California, and we knew that Chuck and Trin were there, he, was trying to get us to be able to go out to dinner together or whatever, and had a lot going on for the first few months. We'd just bought a company that had 3 locations and needed to be out in Phoenix for a couple of weeks to get things transitioned. And so eventually he says, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" Whatever the date was. And I said, "Well, I think we're actually in town." He goes, "Well, we're having a party at Laguna Hills Hotel. You should come on by."
Yeah.
Well, we had sold our house in New York, in Rochester area, and then the guy backed out. It was a cash buyer, and then he backed out. So we held on to that for another year before we got somebody to buy it, paying rent at the same time. A lot of our stuff was in storage, including like a lot of our dress clothes. So we went out and bought new clothes, and of course we bought black. And we show up to this event thinking it's a black tie event, and we get out of the vehicle, and here's a little sign, a little marquee in the front announcing the reception for the wedding of Chuck and Trent Ellis. And I'm like,
Show up at a wedding in black.
You didn't tell us that this was your reception. I didn't have a gift. I was so mad at Chuck. And he's like, "I didn't want you to bring a gift. That's why I didn't tell you." And I said, "I wouldn't have wore black, like it's your funeral." Right. So anyway, Trin is Vietnamese. And so the majority of the people there were her family.
Oh, yeah.
And Janet and I are just walking tall above all these black-haired heads.
Right.
Like, I never felt so tall in my life.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy. Thanks again,
but-
Chuck.
How do you think I feel every time that we go to dinner with her family?
I'm sure. Yeah.
But now you brought me back to memories of I spent about 6 months or so in Irvine there, And I love Dana Point, right? There's that
Oh, yeah.
Marriott.
Oh, yeah.
Just so beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lived there for 7 years. How long were you in Southern California for?
I was
Howard?
there six years.
6 years. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We don't miss it. It's kind of too crazy
I mean,
right
I
now
miss
for,
the weather and the, having the beach access and
yeah, yeah.
some of the beautiful drives, but I don't miss there's other things I don't miss about it.
Traffic is crazy. I mean, we still
It's
go there,
crazy.
unfortunately, a couple times a year.
Yeah. I'm
And
actually going to be out there next week.
yeah, that you can't go anywhere. Traffic it takes you 2 hours to go across the street. It's just
Right.
terrible. Yeah. I don't know how they do it. I mean, I could not live there simply because of the traffic anymore.
My
It's,
sister, oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, it's a lot easier to tolerate the traffic when you're there for a limited period of time, right? Living there had to be horrific, but I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
mind going on vacation or a part of work, right? Because then you can just kind of work around it. But yeah, I agree that the traffic and it is funny in the Kansas City area, folks complain about the traffic
Yeah.
and Howard and I just kind of shake our head like,
Nothing like California.
oh,
Crazy.
Yeah.
Or even Chicago. That can be really bad.
oh yeah, or the DC area, ugh, right? Awful.
Okay. Next on my list, favorite movie.
Oh, off the top of my head, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
No
Yeah,
kidding. Okay. Any
love.
particular reason why?
I I I don't know. I saw it. Of course, I was quite young, very very impacted, right? But it was kind of like I thought it was great, right? There's multiple layers in the movie, right?
Sure.
And kind of a coming of age story and all that. So yeah, I really like that.
So that's favorite movie. Favorite favorite streaming series?
Oh, good one. There's a ton. I just did Slow Horses, right? Which is Apple TV. Of course, you can't not say Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso is fantastic,
Hilarious.
right?
So
And a
can't
new
wait for the
one,
next season to come out.
absolutely. The Diplomat. I don't know if you guys have seen that. It's
No.
I think it might be Netflix. I don't know. Also, really a good one. But yeah.
Nice. All right. So you talked about being an avid cycler, and I know you and Cheryl are in marathons as well. Give us a little background on that.
So yeah, so cycling, yeah, just cycling, not marathons, but I as a kid, it was a release, and I like many of my age were a latchkey kid, right? So both parents working, we were kind of left to our own devices, and so whenever you got a bike, it really expanded your footprint, like where you could go and whatnot. And looking back on it now, I have no idea how we were allowed to do what we were allowed to do, but we did it. And I was the
Yeah.
youngest of three kids, right? My two older brothers. And literally, like, we were supposed to be home by like 6 o'clock, right? But pretty much all day, in the summer times, we just did whatever we wanted to do. So I would cycle. And so whenever I'm out now, it kind of gives me that same sense of freedom. So, Howard knows, and has had to pick me up once because I got a flat and I couldn't get the tire to work properly. But anyhow, um, yeah, on a normal day, I'll do 15 miles. On a weekend, we'll do 30 or more. And then we've been doing the MS rides. I think it was since 2014. I did the first one down in Memphis. And those are usually somewhere between 100 and 150 miles over a couple of days. Did a ton of them.
That's a marathon, man. To me, that is a lot of riding.
Yeah, it can be. It can be. I did several of them where we would start in Irvine, go to Carlsbad, spend the night there, and then we would finish down in San Diego. And anybody who's familiar with Southern California, there's that Torrey Pines, and you start out at sea level, right? And it would be in the morning, so you'd have the marine layer,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you would ride in, and you couldn't see but maybe 100 or 200 feet in front of you, right? So you're just ascending, and it's about a mile climb, and there's all these switchbacks, and you want to talk soul crushing? Get on a bike first thing in the morning and just start riding up a hill where you really don't know when you get to the top, and all you see is like 200 feet in front of you, and it's just clouds, and it's just soul crushing.
Chuck
So
tried to get me to ride out there. You used to do quite a few miles a day, didn't you?
Yeah, I used to do the same thing, Tom. I would ride 10 to 15 miles a day too.
Yeah. And it's great, right? It's great
Yeah,
exercise.
yeah.
So I
I
love it.
was, yeah. Back when I was skinny, I was quite fit, back when I lived in California. Every
Yeah.
morning I'd be up at 500, and a neighbor of ours that was a couple houses down, him and I, we would ride from Laguna Hills all the way to Mission Hills, take the great trail we had from there. Yeah, so it was 15 miles it was 15 miles there and back. So we loved it every day.
Yeah, it is fantastic. So try to keep that up. So between, we'd have the MS ride, and so then it would be training for the MS ride. I've also done what's called Tour de Lakes here in the city we live in. There's like 5 lakes, and I think that was over 100 miles as well. That was
Wow.
something like that. That was brutal, really hot, really windy. That
Did
was
you
The
do that
most
one
I've
day?
ever done,
Yeah, one
One
day.
day.
yeah, the most I've ever done in a day is 100 miles. When I was 18, before I joined the Air Force, and I was ultra skinny.
Yeah.
Big difference to now, but I would love to get back out there.
It's awesome. Yeah, and Howard, I've lost almost 90 pounds.
Oh
So
yeah, incredible.
I did it. I'll say when I was thinner, when I was not as thin, and now when I'm thinner again. And it's
Lot
just
easier.
yeah, it's great.
Chuck,
Yeah,
any
Tom, I
other?
was going to say you look great. You look fabulous,
Thank you.
Tom.
Thank you. Yeah.
Chuck, any other questions you've got?
No, I think that believe it or not, Tom, we've reached our time. We reached an hour already.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate being on the podcast here, the show, and I hope I'll get invited back at some point.
You got it.
Yeah, definitely tell us how how our listeners can reach you. You have a website, obviously.
Yeah. So the name of our company is Global Sense. So it's CENTS, so globalsense.com. You can go there. You can send an email to TLilly, TLILLY, at globalsense.com. Yeah. Or just go to the website. There's a info link there. You can reach out. There's a phone number on the site as well. So yeah, either just globalsense.com or TLilly at Global Sense.
Just
Thank
one
you.
more quick question. Is the size of the company, does it really matter that you would want to do business with? Do you like small business, medium-sized, large businesses? Is there,
Yeah, so our customer base kind of like needs to have the open text platform primarily. We do have one product for doing document conversions that is platform independent, right? But for all the other stuff we've talked about today, it really, the customer base, you need to have the open text platform. So
good to know.
that it usually means that those are medium to larger size organizations. But it's also not just companies, right? So we do work for government agencies as well, right? As I'm sure you guys do.
Yeah,
Yes.
perfect. Howard, any last words?
My words are enjoy the day, enjoy your life, enjoy your family and friends. And, we've got the holidays coming up here soon. So just don't get too much anxiety in your daily activities.
Right.
And of course, go Bears.
Go Packers.
Ugh.
Ouch.
Tom, I want to thank you. I really appreciate your time, and I've learned a lot about your company today. And I got a funny feeling you're going to get a call or two from some of our listeners who can use your product, because there is definitely a synergy between the two products. So obviously, I got to say this. I want to thank our sponsor, National Association for Proficiency Testing, for allowing Howard and I to do this and to continue to bring our guests to you for informative. And if you like it, like the podcast, spread the word around, share it with everybody, and tell them that you like listening to our ranter that Howard and I have with all our guests. So if you want or you need to prove your technical competency probably because of accreditation, then you need to enroll in a proficiency test today. So with that being said, we'll see you on the next podcast.
Thank you. How easy out.